Welcome to today's episode of the Green Industry Podcast. My special guests today are Peyton and her father, Jeff, and they are from the wonderful state of Arkansas. They're about an hour or so from Little Rock, Arkansas. And Jeff's in the tree business, and he's also in the skincare business. Crazy combination, but we will explain. But let me go ahead and introduce my guest. So we'll start with Peyton. Ladies
Hi.
first. Hi, Peyton. How are you?
Good. How are y'all doing?
Good. I like the accent. And your father, Jeff.
Hi, guys.
It's nice. It's nice to meet you all. So go ahead and Peyton, tell everyone a little bit about who you are.
Hi. Well, my name is Peyton Jarvis. I'm from Heber Springs, Arkansas. Like you said, it's about an hour and a half away from Little Rock. I'm a college student at University of Central Arkansas, and it's my freshman year. I'm majoring in finance. That's about all I have.
And fix your camera so your face is like at the top of the screen, not in the
Okay.
bottom. And then Jeff, you're a arborist, tree cutter. What's the proper term?
Yeah, I own a tree service here in Heber Springs. Been doing it for the last 25 years. It started out from just me doing it by myself for the first year and a half, then hired the first employee and slowly grew and bought lots of equipment, made a lot of mistakes, but I've got 12 guys working for me now, and we cut a lot of trees.
Yeah, well, let's start with those early years. Were you just a truck in the truck? You just had a pickup truck and a chainsaw, or what?
It was horrible. Started off with a pickup truck and a trailer, rented the equipment, did that for a good couple of years before talked the bank into loaning us some money for our first bucket truck, got our first bucket truck, and then we were able to have a couple of people full-time working for us, hand-loaded everything. It was horrible, hand-loaded.
So by hand loading, most of my audience is cutting that grass, making that cash, or flinging some mulch, doing landscaping. I don't know, maybe we have some tree cutters out there, but when you say hand loading, you cut the big old tree down and then you chop it up and you actually carried it into your truck?
It's on the ground. We put it on a trailer. We literally cut everything up in pieces, picked it up, stacked it on a trailer, strapped it down, hauled it off, unloaded it, and went back and did it again until we were finished.
Wow. So did you make money in the first year or two, or were you breaking even, or how does that all work when you don't have all the fancy equipment that you have now?
Ironically, I worked at a manufacturing factory before I started this, and I love to build stuff, and that's how it kind of started. With the tree service, I just built my own equipment, a lot of things. So it just slowly just kind of grew into, more and more equipment, more things. And sorry, I forgot the question.
Yeah, no, I was just asking early on, how in the world did you make money?
Going back with the
efficiency of the equipment.
Oh, so on the factory, I made $10 an hour. I was bringing in $400 a week. My first week doing my own business, after I left the business, I was working there for 10 years, scared to death, started it out. After the first week, I made like $1,000. And I was like, dang, wow. There is an opportunity here if you work hard. And, so that was the start. And over time, you take bigger risks, bigger jobs, kind of teach yourself how to do it. I did a lot of learning at the beginning by myself, a lot of mistakes. You learn from your mistakes. Some of the biggest things you learn are that hit your pocketbook the hardest. So those are the ones that stick with you for a very long time.
And you still got all your fingers, feet, limbs?
I do, actually, believe it or not. Believe it or not.
And Peyton, you grew up, so your whole life, your dad's been cutting down trees. What was that like growing up? Your dad comes home in the evening with sawdust and smelling.
Yeah.
Sweaty.
Yeah. I mean, ironically, talking about poison ivy, I would go and give him a hug when I was like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I would just get poison ivy all over me just from like him working out in the yard or out in whatever he was doing.
Man, cutting down those trees. So, Jeff, from the business side of cutting trees, I know you need insurances and for when my insurance plan, if anything was higher than 10 feet, you had to get a whole nother level of insurance. We could prune up a tree standing on
Right.
the earth, but once you start going up, how did all that work? At what point did you start getting all of that, dotting your I's and crossing your T's? Because I know a lot of guys out there, they just got a truck and a chainsaw and they're not even insured or whatnot.
I was blessed with a very, very witted insurance agent that we still work with today that has all my commercial policies, the workman's comp, the general liability, the vehicles, the equipment insurance. We pay a lot of insurance. Now you need it for if anything ever happens. You don't want it to, but sometimes you look back and you just see how much you spent on insurance and you just shake your head. It's pretty depressing. But all it takes is one time to use it, and then you'll know it's worth it.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned a lot of mistakes early on and learning from those mistakes, because you're doing this for 25 years now. Yeah. And I'm sure you guys are dialed in and efficient, and 12 employees. You got quite the tree operation. But what are some mistakes, Jeff, that you made in those early years, and what lesson did you learn from those mistakes?
Some of it was a little more carelessness. I was younger, reckless, did a lot of things that surprisingly I walked away from. I did have one incident where I did fall. We were hired a crane out, and I was 50 foot back when I was climbing. Crane fell in the septic tank, knocked me out of the tree, fell 50 foot, broke my back, my neck, 5 ribs, knocked my shoulder out of socket, broke my heel. Then laid in the hospital for 2 weeks. They bolted me together and walked out.
Wow.
It was totally amazing. Totally.
Yeah.
So it's there's mistakes that you learn from, and if you survive them, you always have them in the back of your mind on different things. You just learn how to control things better. Now with I have 2 full crews that run help me run the tree service now. Mm-hmm. I still do the bidding. I still do a lot of the background paperwork and control a lot. Being self-employed is not always the greatest, but you spend a lot of time. It does have its perks. You just I work a lot.
Yeah. Well, coming up, we'll talk about how you launched into skincare from tree cutting to skincare. But I really think you can help, because a lot of my audience, they look 25 years out. They're in year 1, 2, 3, or 4, and they're making all of these rookie mistakes. But when you go out to bid a job, what goes through your brain cells now versus what 25 years ago? What mistakes were you making? And now, as you're quoting these jobs, giving these bids, what are you looking for to make sure that your pricing is accurate on these risky big jobs?
So I still am not perfect. I still mess up occasionally, but it all comes down to time. About 10 years into cutting trees, we did the most horrible tree job there ever was. It was carrying stuff up a riverbank. It was couldn't get any equipment to it. It was just a horrible, horrible tree job. And from that point on, the next day, it was got like a light switch flipped. Everything was time, because once you knew that you can do the worst of the worst of the worst, almost the impossible, then you can do it all. And then everything becomes to time. So when I bid things, it's all time. If you're next to power lines, or if it's over a house, or if it's got more limbs, or if it's just really humongous tree, it's all time. You just get to the point, you figure out, and if a lot of it comes from experience. And equipment, I didn't really start buying equipment until about 5 years ago. I went equipment crazy and bought a lot, and increased the bottom line, or the income tremendously. Wish I would have known that from the beginning. My back, my legs, my knees, all that would be a little bit better shape if I would have known then what I knew now. Mm-hmm. But also the banks would have never gave me the money back then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to learn how to do your taxes in a way that make everybody happy, that you can borrow money when you need it, and you know, have the equipment that you need to do a job efficiently.
What kind of equipment is your operation now?
So I have several bucket trucks. When we started, a little brief story. What I learned, one of the mistakes I learned is when I started was one bucket truck, and then it was involved in a car wreck, which was not our fault, and it crippled us. And not realizing how important it is, if you don't have a bucket truck, you can't cut trees. So, you know, we kind of limped around for about a month or so, and I realized that we've got to do something else. So I fixed that truck, got it back on the road, bought two more, you know, just to have on hand. I'm a High Ranger fanatic. They're the older trucks. They're sturdier, easier to work on. You know, I just really like the High Ranger trucks. So you kind of figure out the things that hurt you the most. And that at that time did. So after I got the bucket trucks, I bought my first grapple truck. I went to Florida. It was a Hurricane Katrina grapple truck. It was $80,000. Had no idea how I was going to pay for it. Went down there and got it. Within the first week, it literally doubled our income. It doubled our work, or doubled our ability to do the work just overnight, just because we could handle and move so much brush. As time went on, then, you know, we got enough work going, because, you know, all your work doesn't show up overnight. We've got to build in that we get so many jobs and everybody trusts you and you have a good record and taking care of your customers. So we have a pretty repetitive customer flow that keeps us going. So, you know, since then, you know, which I build a lot of our own stuff. It's hard for anybody to afford to just go out and buy stuff. I mean, this stuff's expensive. So, you know, I took the truck tractors, stretched the frame, built the beds, put the booms on them, you know, but they're Rotobeck loaders. You know, so I've got two grapple trucks. We've got a small grapple trailer that we built. We've got two 70-foot bucket trucks, a 55-foot bucket truck, bought a 105-foot bucket truck for river trees, because anything on the river is very tall. The most important piece of equipment I purchased was a crane. I purchased a Freightliner. It's an Elliott 18125 crane. Love it. Wish I would have bought it 20 years ago. Didn't, you know, I had a buddy in BB, Arkansas, that said, man, you got to buy a crane. You got to buy a crane. We worked together on things. You know, I encouraged him to buy the first grapple truck. So after, you know, working together and stuff like that, and I said, all right. So I went out and bought a crane, and he was right. The amount of effort where it take us all day, cut a tree down, cut it by piece, do it in 2 hours. You know, so if it's a $1,000 tree that would take you, you know, 3 or 4 hours to do, you're done in an hour. I mean, it's really that much of a difference. It really makes things quicker. Now I'm the crane operator. I am crane certified. You just have to know, you have to be a real level-headed person to run a crane for a tree service, because it is technical. You can screw up very easy and get some people hurt. So, you know, I'm really on my toes about that. So we spend a lot of time, you know, go over and, you know, the jobs, and, you know, when we get there, we have a procedure, and everybody tells us, if you Google us, we're very efficient. We do a great job. You know, we're picky. And I would say we're probably, you know, one of the best in Arkansas. I mean, we probably do 1,000 jobs a year, you know, everywhere from a $300 job to a $10,000 job.
And Jeff, what's your advice to somebody who's currently, they're cutting that grass, making that cash, just mowing, edging, trimming, blowing, but Mrs. Smith comes out and like, hey, can you take, you know, cut that tree off the house, or can you cut this tree, or can you prune that one back? And there's just so much demand where the guy who's mowing gets asked to do some tree work. What's your advice to somebody who's a little bit intimidated? Maybe they got a chainsaw, in their truck, but they don't have a crane or anything
Right.
about. How do you kind of ease into it and get experience without taking that big leap into, being a full service tree company, but serving the customer who has a need at the moment? Because they usually ask us first,
Right.
if you can take care of whatever the tree need is at the time.
Well, one of the easiest, taking the small steps is great. If a lawn care guy, a pole saw, a good, I use steel. I've used steel for 25 years. They went through a phase that they weren't very good. Then they got better. They finally come out of that. But, a pole saw, $600, get a pole saw, learn how to trim the low limbs. It's simple. It's easy money. You've got to have a place to take your brush. Your brush hole is worth its weight in gold. Arkansas is a little bit relaxed in disposal compared to a lot of states, so it's not as bad. But a pole saw, don't cut off a ladder. I've worked for so many people that actually have hurt themselves, homeowners, by cutting off a ladder. There's specific ways you can do it, but it's not worth it typically. I mean, a pole saw will go, 16 foot off the ground, and that's a lot of trimming. It just makes it a lot easier. I mean, just if you're mowing, it's quick, easy money. If you're going to haul the clippings away, small limbs, just trimming the low limbs up will help the guy that's mowing the yard because they're getting poked in the face all the time.
Right. And I mean, I lived in Atlanta for a long time. We had Bermuda grass, and when the canopies of the trees would start to really fill in, that Bermuda grass would get stressed and it wouldn't grow as good. So I always would recommend, hey, let's limb this up just to get more sunlight in, and then the grass looks better for the customers.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
It does. It makes a big difference. Trees, the part about trees is, if you want grass, you can't have trees. It's hard. I mean, a very hard mix to have trees in a good yard. I mean, it's very expensive to make both of them look great. You're going to have bare spots where the trees pull the moisture and the nutrients out of the ground or out of the grass. So it is a tough challenge for, do that.
Peyton, what's been your biggest story as a daughter of an entrepreneur? Your dad's running his business your whole life. What story has he not shared yet? What's a crazy story that you've experienced?
Well, I keep thinking, like, for an experience for other people to take away from, is I just get tickled at when Dad fired all his employees one time.
What's that? Can you tell us that story?
Well, this was, so I'm the world's worst about trying to jump on, the thing. So we had the oil field to come through here, and they were drilling for natural gas. In Arkansas, in the Fayetteville Shale is actually what it is, and they perfected the horizontal boring here. And they all went up north and where the natural gas is a little more abundant. So they had crazy money. I mean, the oil field come in, it's natural gas. We just call it oil field. They come in, and the money was crazy. And it really got hard on all the local people because they're paying $30 an hour for these college kids to sit here and watch a pump run. All they had to do is sit there and just stay awake, just sitting there watching a pump run. I mean, and they would work 80 hours a week. I mean, it's crazy. It was just, so one of the projects we actually did a liner underneath the rig platform where the drilling rig was. So whenever they spilt diesel, oil, contaminants and stuff, it was actually on top of a very large drop cloth. And we would go out there, and I would make my money saving reusable things because we put felt paper underneath it, and we rolled it up, and we tried to save it. I had a crew of guys that paid crazy money, for them to do this. Well, they wouldn't reuse any of the old felt because it was just it just took them a little bit longer. So they they just refused to help, re-roll it up to take it back out on the next job. And, we just said, all right, I fired 6 of them right there, which was majority of my oil field crew. And, but the thing about my tree service, the tree service was a completely different crew. And at that time I was running the 2 different businesses. So my tree service crew would work circles around any of the oil field crew. I mean, they would do so much more. So anytime I was in a bind, I just call them guys in and would take care of it. So it happens. We just, we get by. I'm like everybody else. You see an opportunity, try to get it. Now, the thing about the oil field, it's cutthroat. You need to go in there. I went in there with the mentality of do a great job. They'll keep you on. That's not how the oil field works. So if anybody gets in the oil field, it's a cutthroat business. Treat it like that. You'll have it today. It may be gone tomorrow.
Got it.
It's a tough one.
We had a comment come in here from Lawn Care Lover. I would think the crane would make it a lot safer.
It does.
PBS, yeah.
My climbers love the crane because they don't have to climb up the trees. I can actually pick them up, set them in the tree. They can tie it off. If we've got to tie it off another limb, I literally pick them up, swing them over to the next limb. They tie it off there. They go down and find their anchor point or where they're going to cut, and they can get situated. And it's easier on them. It's quicker, and they can climb trees all day without being exhausted. Mm-hmm. It really makes a difference. A crane is, I couldn't do it without the crane.
Before we get into how the family business has added on from tree services to skincare products, we'll get into that crazy story in just a moment. I do want to talk about employees, though, because our biggest pain point, Jeff, across this industry, whether it's in tree services, landscaping, hardscaping, lawn care, is how do I get somebody who shows up, with a pulse is like, that's step one. And then they're actually somewhat competent on the job is number 2. It's just so difficult, at least in the Atlanta and Florida market, just to find a quality employee. How have you gone about it over there in Arkansas? And what have you kind of learned about recruiting talent to cut these trees down and run your business?
So I've figured out over time that the tree service, you're not going to get unless you're just really blessed, somebody that's really going to work hard physically and do a good job and care about their work. Finding them is a needle in a haystack. Now, it's taken me years, and I pay a lot. And, there's different, I have medical insurance now. I do medical insurance. I pay half of it for the employees. Now, ironically, only 2 or 3 of them have it. It's kind of odd to me, but, and there's other perks that we do. I do cash bonuses. If I have an excellent week, I want them to have an excellent week. Mm-hmm. That seems to help a lot. Keeps the morale up. Just know that most of them, even mine, I've had them, a lot of my employees 8 or 10 years. Most of my guys, except 2, I've had for years. Many years. Uh-huh. They all have baggage. They all have skeletons in their closet, something that, you've had to deal with. I've had to go to court for them. I've had to help get them out of jail. I've had to pay their fines. It's something that you just have to weigh your options that, hopefully they remember that and they help you back out. Mm-hmm. Now, in the town of Heber Springs, I'd hope that I pay more than pretty much anybody can just go out and go and get another job. There's some factories, but you're either an outside person or inside person. I'm an outside person, so there's no way I could be stuck in the building welding the same 2 pieces of metal together for 10 or 12 hours a day. Uh-huh. So I've just been blessed with having great employees. Now, it took years. And ironically, a lot of the employees knew somebody that knew somebody. And that's how I ended up growing the crew. Is I just got a hold of one person that said, "Hey, I've got a buddy of mine that needs a job." And, now going back a few years, I used to be very verbal. It was very hard for me to find this step about, I would say, 15 years ago. I was the world's worst at speaking before I thought, and I would tell everybody exactly what I thought very quickly, and it may not have been the greatest thing in the world. And the one day that I had to call my father-in-law to help me drive 3 trucks out to the job because there was nobody else, I pissed everybody off, and they quit.
Uh-huh.
So at that point, it hit really hard. I've got to keep my mouth, I got to keep quiet. I got to bite my tongue. And that is one of the hardest things as a boss is, they're screwing up, they're doing, it takes twice as long for what they're doing, but you just bear and grin it, let them do it their way, because if you micromanage it, they're not going to learn it and do it on their own. Mm-hmm. They're never going to do it as quick and as fast as you are. We make 25% more when I'm on the job. We get 25% more done easily. My weeks are Mondays and Tuesdays typically are project days, mechanic fix. We do all kinds of little projects. Wednesdays and Thursdays are my crane days. That I just have all crane jobs scheduled. I mean, it's just from the morning to the evening. They maybe climb, maybe not. And then Fridays and Saturdays, I'm on the road bidding jobs. I don't drive to – one of the mistakes I made when I started is I would drive 30, 45 minutes to a job, bid it, come back, and that takes a couple hours. Then the next day you get a call from their neighbor, and you drive back to the same place literally you were the night before, and that wears you down when you're spending a lot of time on the road. So about 20 years ago, I started doing it on Fridays, and it went into Fridays and Saturdays. So I look at a lot of tree jobs. I get about 75% approvals that day. Then probably another 10%. The ladies in the office will call the customers, because a lot of customers, they want it off their plate. If they're on the fence on approving the job, a callback will get you another 10% of your jobs. That's just good. Calling back and checking up on them. Uh-huh. If you are lucky enough and big enough, you can have a office personnel or not. One of the important things I've learned just this last year is we have a answering service. Our phone rings twice, and if the lady in the office can't pick it up, it goes to an answering service where somebody will pick up the phone and answer it. Mm-hmm. The amount of people that will hang up or not leave a message is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. You've got to, or if you think you'll call them back, just having them answer the phone and say, this is Jarvis Tree Service, even they know it's an answering service. Mm-hmm. That is very, very, very important. It's documented in a text and email. I look through them. We have these storms coming through and it's busy. I mean, there's no way you can answer all the phone calls, but they're getting answered. So you can go through them real easy. And that was a very important step on our part, is having somebody that will answer the phone.
That's good. Peyton, you mentioned earlier, Daddy would come home from work and you'd give him a big old hug and you'd get poison ivy. How in the world did your guys' encounters with the poison ivy turn into what happened today?
We just it was a struggle that everybody dealt with. I mean, him and his guys dealt with it all day long. And then say he would come home and he'd just be sitting next to you at the dinner table and your leg would brush against his jeans. I mean, it was just, and then you'd be scratching all day long. And it was just a struggle that everybody has. So he is if I can't get what I need, I'm going to do it myself type of guy. Mm-hmm. And so go big or go home. He went and did it himself. So.
Yeah. So tell us the story. What I'm referencing here is because you were getting poison ivy so much and you were so fed up with it, you're like, I'm just going to make my own soap to get those oils out of the skin, and explain your origin story, Jeff.
So, which Peyton has it correct. So I'm the world's worst about just taking it over, just coming up with a better solution. So, being in the tree service, I've went to our local Walmart and I've bought it all, and and they have some stuff that works good, but the liquid stuff that costs $40, and it works great, but that lasts a day.
Mm-hmm.
How many times are you going to put $40? I mean, you can spend $500 a month on Poison Ivy soap really quick because they're not very careful with it. Mm-hmm. So it's just not feasible. So before we did the Poison Ivy soap, our last soap that we used, we went to a spring fest where they had somebody that was making the old traditional lye soap. Mm-hmm. And that worked reasonably well for a few years, but just like everybody else, they started changing the recipe and adding, fragrance. All my guys don't want to smell flowery. Right. They don't want any fragrance. They don't want conditioner. They just want to quit itching. They don't want to break out. Their wives are on them, just like, my wife and my kids, they get it too. And they're just, they get in trouble. Yeah. It's rough. So, I just kind of got fed up with it one day because the guys come in and, we get some of these river jobs that have poison ivy and poison oak. It's just unbearable. And, it's just our arms to be red on fire, and it's going to be miserable. And you're doing everything, trying Dawn soap, you try bleach, you try everything trying to cut it, and it just doesn't work. So I teamed up with a soap manufacturer, and it took a while to find one that would deal with me. And it took 6 months of getting samples. I said, guys, this is not any good. This is not going to work. And, they just kept sending it, and I really felt that they were doubting us. And they said, well, you're going to have to order 50,000 bars. So, so our first order was 50,000 bars. Wow. And my wife had no idea that we're doing this. And, I walked in and handed her first bar and said, hey, we're into Poison Ivy bar or soap business now. And, she kind of looked at me like I was crazy. But, I wanted something that works.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I have it in my shower. I used it this morning, and it is not scented. So you are right. I did not want a scented soap. Peyton, what's been your involvement with the family business here?
Well, it really started. We went to a trade show in Orlando, Florida, yep. In February, and I just tagged along because I'm a people person through and through. I will talk to somebody all day long, and so he was just like, "Yeah, come along with me." He was like, "You'll help me out because I'm pretty good at persuading people, I feel like." And so I went there, and I thought it was so much fun. I thought, like, man, I could really start, helping out with this. And I've I've talked to all of the people we met there. I've been emailing them, got into some pharmacies and things like that. So I just stay in contact with all of them, and I'm trying to find more distributors and stuff like that. So that's what I do.
Okay, that's fun. Let me share my screen here. And let's see here. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So this is Amazon, which is the biggest store in the world. And I'm actually on Amazon here. So I have, let's see here. I have a video on Amazon right there.
Yeah.
That's my video on Amazon. So
sweet.
That's when I got the soap. I just did it. They call it an unboxing. So in real time, like when I was opening it for the first time, I just made a little video there. But let's go back. So walk us through how do you get your product here on the biggest store in the world, and kind of walk us through the website here.
So all this has been a learning curve, very, very hard learning curve. Had no idea about marketing, thinking that, hey, I can get it in Tractor Supply. I can get it in Ace Hardwares. I can, no, you're not going to just go up to any store and get it in there. And we still fight for that today, trying to get it in the stores. You're not big enough, or you don't have enough products. It's really a tough challenge. I've hired 3 marketing companies to help build the Amazon and do that. And the trade show that Peyton and I went to, we were blessed with a lady there that we met. That was another vendor that sells a product, and we were talking to her. An amazing lady, and she has decided to help us on our Amazon. And we would not be near doing as good without her. The marketing companies, if you get into a product, sadly, they make it all sound great. They make it sound like they can sell millions of dollars worth of product. They don't. I did the ones where you paid a monthly fee. Basically, it was costing me, by the time it was said and done, not counting the monthly fee, the soap with the extra charges and stuff for advertising on Amazon. Basically, I was giving the soap away. And they said, well, you have to do that for the first several months. So I'm giving this soap away. If I sell it for $9.99, I'm probably costing me $9.80. So we did that for months, and also paying this $500 fee. Then I hired another company. They did it on commission, and they were just as bad. They just put no effort. Then I meet this lady that just nicely said, hey, I went to your website. Here's your problems, and just laid them out. I mean, like totally just laid them out, and it was amazing. And she goes, well, I'll help you with it. And so we pay her a little bit and help her, and she helps us, and it's turned it completely around. Now we originally sent 5,000 bars to Amazon and sent 5,000 bars to Walmart. Don't send that many to Walmart. They may be there a while.
Yeah, I could have told you that. I have books, and they sell like hotcakes off Amazon, and then Walmart, they barely sell.
Yeah.
On Walmart. So where's that accounts for 40,000? Where's the 50? Yeah, 10,000. Where's the other 40,000? Because you ordered 50,000 originally. In your garage, or
well, we do have. So I do a lot of metal fabrication. So I do have another warehouse that we have it in. I've probably gave thousands and shipped thousands of bars of soap out for samples and to people, and I give it to a lot of my customers. You tried to. I was 2 weeks ago. I was at doing an estimate, and the neighbor come over talking to the customer I was talking to, and they were talking about going to the doctor and stuff. And anytime I hear a rash, my ears perk up. And so I sneak over there and say, what kind of rash you got? And he said, oh, this poison ivy. I said, I got it in the truck. I'll hook you up. And he's supposed to get me some pictures and stuff. And when I talked to him a couple days later, he said it's almost gone, but he hadn't gave me any pictures yet.
Yeah.
So it's all about getting the oil off. If you can just get the oil to go away, the itch will go away. The poison ivy will go away.
So explain the science behind that, Jeff, of you're out in the woods or wherever, by the river, your skin touches the poison ivy or the poison oak. And then where's the oil? How does it get in your skin, and why does it stay there and make you itch?
So the oil it just bonds. I mean, really bonds and mixes with your existing oil. It only takes a few nanograms, and that's enough to completely cover your body with a rash. It's very, I mean, it spreads very easy. So it's one of those things that if we're out cutting and we know we get in it, our arms will turn red, or if we get it in our face, or if it brushes against you, the oil, I mean, it doesn't take much at all. And, now that we have this, we just carry the soap on the trucks, and we got water tanks. That was a very important thing that we put on our trucks. We have water tanks. So we'll go out there and wash it off, and we have no problems with it now. I mean, it doesn't bother us, knowing that, hey, we can just wash it off and we're good. Now it's still on our clothes. So you'll still give it to everybody in your family, but the oil, it just bonds really well with your existing oil, and the soap takes your body's oil off and the poison ivy oil as well. So, if you've ever had poison ivy rash, you want to be dry. You want everything gone, and it's just important to get it all off, and your body replenishes its oil really quick.
Yeah, this is so this is what it looks like here. And you
I
would
wanted it big enough that you can grab.
Yeah.
A man to grab and use.
They got your well, it's kind of hard to see with my light, but your name there, the Jarvis, and your kind of logo, it's kind of my webcam's not picking up the details, but there's a indentation in there. So I have one in my shower right now that I actually used this morning, and then it doesn't really smell like anything.
Yeah.
Kind of unscented. Peyton, what's been your craziest story? Getting this from your dad's crazy idea to being on Amazon and having a physical product here.
Well, I just think I feel like it's a great opportunity for anybody, like me especially. I feel like it was a great opportunity for this to be something that I started doing while I'm in college. I'm learning about, I'm in an accounting class. I'm learning about the payments and receivables and everything that goes into a business, but I'm also learning about economies in my macro and micro classes. So I like being able to put it all into one like business and being able to see both sides of it. Because with the tree service, I never really saw like any of that. And so I feel like this is a good experience for me to be doing while I'm in college and learning about all of that.
Yeah, that's good. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm not very organized. I'm the world's worst on emails. I'm the world's worst on accounting, paperwork. I'd rather handwrite if you could read it. And she is totally opposite, organized. I probably would have given up a long time ago if she wasn't involved. So she's my rock that keeps me plugging away on this, because with her energy and her ability to keep rolling, it just makes it worth it.
Now you guys are on the biggest store in the world, Amazon. Is there any other plans to get it local in Arkansas, or knock on any of these other doors of these other companies, or what for distribution? Are you just going to go heavy on Amazon.com, or do you have any other plans?
So we are scheduled to go to the I think it's called the National Lawn and Garden Show in Vegas. I have no idea when it is. It's a few months from now. Peyton probably knows.
It's June 4th through 6th, I think.
So we're going to give that a shot. And we have another one. There's a Foster's trade show that we're dealing with that we're going to go to as well. So we do have it in one of our local customers. He actually owns 8 Ace hardware stores in Arkansas. Wow. And they have it in all their stores, and they sell it a lot.
Yeah, I would imagine.
So, you would think that you'd be able to get the bigger Ace, but it's not that easy. Getting into the bigger stores is tough. Getting into pharmacies, I had no idea. Now the local stores, they would all take it in a heartbeat. They know, how we are. They know, they know Jarvis Tree Service and how picky we are. You can Google us, and we've got a 5-star rating. We do the best that anybody's can possibly do, and that's in everything we do. Though we're the worst. Go big or go home.
We like to say, do it the Jarvis way.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, you got some really good. Let's see here. I'm going to share my screen again. We'll take another look at the Amazon. So it's on Amazon.com if you guys want to pick up your bar of soap here. I was just looking at the reviews here, because anytime I shop, if it's over 80%, that's solid. I buy a lot of stuff off of Amazon, so you're sitting at 82%. So that's a solid showing. You have 5 stars here. Go ahead.
one of the bad reviews, and this is a
I
learning
didn't, you don't have to
experience.
mention. I didn't mention the bad review. Go ahead.
Well, and I'll tell them myself is, it is soap, and we try to catch. Sometimes you when you're typing these ads and stuff out, especially when you have somebody helping you, she put natural down in the description, and it's not natural ingredients. It's it's soap ingredients. So one of the things, everything has a chemical name, even organic stuff. I mean, everything's got a chemical name. And you can either put on the way the soap rules are what is called before it goes in the pot, or what is called after it comes out of the pot. So that's kind of, so I chose the chemical name. So it doesn't matter what it is. It just looks, like a chemical name. It's, everything you find in your shampoos and all that stuff. So we made the mistake of putting natural down. And one of the reviewers from
Fine customer right here.
They barked at us pretty hard, and we changed it. It was one of those things. It was a lesson that we learned, and just got us. It's one of those things.
Well, that's just one. And Robert Hayes, he said he used it on his dry, itchy skin on his legs. No more itching. This Poison Ivy soap works great. Michael D. Shook. You're fancy when you're using your middle initial there. Kara, 5 stars. I always get poison oak and poison ivy when I come into contact. I was cutting some firewood, didn't pay attention, and it had it all over, poison ivy all over. Thankfully, I had a bar of this Jarvis Poison Ivy soap to try. Immediately after I was done cutting, I washed with this soap. It's been a few days. No rash. Thanks, Jarvis Poison Ivy Soap. Mindy,
the key is not to, I didn't mean to butt you off. The key is to catch it the sooner the better. If you think you've got it, a lot of people will scratch their skin and they traumatize the skin. And so the skin has to heal. So, and it's hard not to scratch. It's hard not to want to just take a potato peeler and peel your skin off because it itches so bad. But, if you traumatize the skin, then it takes a while for it to heal back.
Yeah. We got a verified purchase here from Fall. Fantastic soap to use after being in the woods or working around poison ivy. Will wash off the oils of poison ivy so you don't have to break out. If you forget to use the soap and do break out, this will help dry up the blisters. She says she's allergic. He or she, I don't know. But 5-star review there. Brad Miller, verified purchase. Jarvis Poison Ivy soap works great. Washes off oils of poison ivy and also helps the dry and itchy skin. Highly recommend this product. Read one more from good old Mindy here. 5 stars, verified purchase. This stuff works. I use every time I even think I'm around poison ivy, oak, or sumac. Cuts through the oil, prevents the spray. Great product. So pretty cool stuff here. Let me stop sharing my screen there. So is there anything we're leaving out here that needs addressed?
I don't think so.
No, be happy to help anybody if they have any questions or anything like that. If you get something, Paul, later down the road that somebody asked you, I'd be happy to answer. I don't want anybody to suffer through the pains and the issues I had building the business. There's a lot of background stuff that goes on that, would take days to go over, from the accounting, from taxes to insurance. There's stuff that you have to do to survive. And it's just, there's a lot of learning, that people don't teach you. That's the thing that Peyton, I've been able to sit there and talk for hours to Peyton, telling Peyton about the realistic things of business. Mm-hmm. And then she can take it with the stuff they teach her and understand, why things are done this way or why it's not, or why I do it my way and not the right way. There's ways of doing things.
Mm-hmm. Anything we're leaving out here, Peyton, that needs to be addressed? You said you're a big talker here, so.
Well, I am, but I'm pretty sure we've covered it all.
Okay, you lit up like a Christmas tree earlier when your dad.
I know.
Was
Sorry
talking.
about that.
No. I meant your countenance when when your dad was talking about his employees. You had a big old smile. Was there a story that you wanted to share? Or?
Oh, I just got a kick out of him saying they all have baggage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and they've also, like he was saying, like they've been here for 8 years. Yeah, they've all watched me grow up. Like I've known all of them for as long as I can remember. I mean, plus or minus a few, but for a while.
So you're just a little girl, and some of these guys started working for your dad, and then you went through middle school and high school, and you've seen your dad go get Pookie out of jail or whoever it was.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The 2:00 morning phone calls. Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, we've had them all.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, you guys can pick up your bar of soap, or get some for your crew. Christmas is far away, but it'd be a good Christmas, a stocking stuffer, as they say, to get for your team members and whatnot. It's on Amazon. It's called Jarvis Poison Ivy Soap, created by a tree cutter, and you met that tree cutter right here, Jeff Jarvis, and then his daughter Peyton. So I think we covered everything, unless there's anything we're leaving out.
No, just check it out. And
and if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, the Mr. Producer will put the actual URL in the show notes, so you can just click on that, and that will take you straight over to Amazon, and you can pick up your bar soap, give it a try, and drop a rating and review with your experience, and let Jeff know how it does for you. But I think this is something to do in prevention. Have it in the truck, have it in your shower ahead of time, because I live in Florida, I've lived in Georgia. It's just there's just stuff everywhere, and you don't want to let those oils linger around for any minutes or hours. You want to get to it right away.
And the soap will last a long time. It really does. So you can use it over many, 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 many times. It's not like some of the other products where it's a real small bar. It's a good sized bar. We'll have a bar in the truck that everybody uses, throughout the whole week. We got a crew of 5 that will, if they get into it, we all wash, and it lasts a long time. It really is a good bar soap.
Cool. And look into coming to Louisville. It's called the Equip Expo. There's 27,000 of us. It's a trade show, lawn care and landscaping. I know that I think it's sold out. 1,000. They only have room for 1,000 exhibitors. But John Deere's there, and Toro, and the kind of the mowing companies, Steel's there. Man, I made a video, Jeff. What's better, Steel chainsaw or Echo chainsaw? And that video, I don't know why. Maybe I took it down. It had so many views and it had so many comments. People fighting in the comments.
Yeah. It's a Ford and Chevy or Dodge person. They have their favorites. The thing about the Steel chainsaws, when I started out, they were all the same. You could break one, take the parts, put on another one. And they finally kind of changed all that up so you can't do that. But I've got a building with Steel. We fix most of our stuff that we can ourselves. And the amount of parts in there are just unreal.
And how many inches are your chainsaws?
So I used to have so many variety of sizes on chainsaws. We've got the hand saws and the pole saws. We run a 14-inch bar. It's a low profile 3/8 chain. I used to have a 12-inch and a 14-inch, and realized the pole saws can handle the 14s. And then I used to have a 20-inch and a 24-inch on the chainsaws for a smaller saw and a bigger saw. Now we just run 24-inch because there's no reason to have all the extra. And I didn't learn this until 4 or 5 years ago, where I had all these different sizes and it was just hard to keep up. I've bought the big saws. I've got 4 or 5 of the 880s from steel that makes them. Sadly, those are one of the worst undependable saws I had. So we just use the 660s and 661s, put a 3-foot bar on it when we cut something big with a 3/8 chain on it, and it does amazing. It's not worth that extra weight and the bigger chains to keep up with. So but you got to buy your chains. If you're in the tree service, you can only afford cutting if you buy chains by the pallet. That's the only way you can afford it. Get it down to $5-6 a piece. Otherwise, going to the local hardware store and spending $25 or $30 a chain, and you hit the first nail, you're like, oh, it just makes you sick.
Mm-hmm. What kind of wildlife do you run into out there in the Arkansas forest?
Well, cutting trees, I mean, you come across a lot of squirrels. We move a lot of squirrel nests, raccoons, snakes. There's snakes in the trees.
Man, that's scary.
Yeah, it's
what do you mean they're in the tree?
They're in the trees. You get some of them are in the trees. And some of our guys are really, really scared of snakes. I've seen a bear cross the road, or a mama bear and a baby bear cross the highway. We haven't seen that out cutting trees, or I haven't. But
so you guys aren't afraid of snakes?
I'm not.
Oh, I am.
I'm not.
I'll pass.
I have big boots, so I've never been bitten by one. Knock on wood.
You stepped on one, or?
Oh yeah, I mean I step on them, and they don't bother me. It's just one of those things that I'm in the woods. I guess one of the things that bother me the most is dog poop. Going in somebody's yard and they have so much dog poop in there, and it sticks with you for the rest of the day.
Oh yeah,
that's just tough.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, it's just that, which is ironic out of all the things that
Yeah,
pet peeve.
If I was up there and I saw a snake in a tree, that would be it, man. I'd be back on the mower.
No, I mean, if it bothers, I mean, yeah, they'll catch you. They may startle you and stuff, but most of the time they run. Now, copperheads will chase you. They will actually chase you. But usually you got something in your hand that you can deter them.
Yeah.
But,
well, thank you for your time. And again, guys, support Jeff and his business, Jarvis Poison Ivy Soap. You can get that if you're listening on Apple or Spotify in the show notes by clicking on the link there, or just head on over to Amazon.com and type in Jarvis Poison Ivy Soap, and $9.49. Why didn't you make it $9.99? What
it actually is. It's got a little discount on Amazon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. It says on my computer, it says 5% off. But that, to me, if something's $9.49 or $9.99, I wouldn't even think twice. As long as it's under $10, I feel like it's I mean, even if it's like $13.99 or $14.99, like, to get rid of poison ivy, I've gone multiple times to urgent care. I'm soft.
Yeah.
I'm in urgent care, and I'm like, I'm itching. And you talked about that man's rash. Like, I had this nurse one time, and I had to show her my rash, and I was like, oh man, and it was not fun when you got a rash all over yourself. And I'm sitting there in urgent care, and they give me I think it was called a cortisol shot. Yeah. They gave me all kind of stuff, but I mean, I multiple times. I'm not exaggerating, Jeff. I went multiple times to urgent care because I'm itching like crazy. And so, but I didn't have this soap, on hand or anything like that. And then I got a big bill. So for me, $13, $14, but you have it at $9.49, but it's worth it to have it, so when the ivy does strike, poison ivy, you're ready for it.
Well, and that's one of the things that's so hard to just go out and find something because you're suffering and you're like, I'll just deal with it. And the next morning it's twice as much, twice as rash. You're itching just more and more. You done give it to your wife or you give it to your kids, and everybody's miserable. And, it just, it's hard to plan ahead. It's one of those things that nobody thinks about it until it's too late. And a lot of people do. They just go get the shot and get the steroid pack or the Z pack.
That's what they gave me. Yep, it's exactly what they gave me.
Yep.
Yep.
And it will work provided that if you still don't have the oil on gloves or on your couch or on your doorknobs or in your vehicle, all you got to have is one little chip or piece of that vine in there or the leaf, and you sit back on it, you've got it again. And it just keeps breaking out. So it's stuff that will hang around for days and weeks if you're not careful.
Yep. Well, I appreciate you guys sharing your story. And again, guys, just take a look into the show notes to get the link to Jarvis Poison Ivy Soap, or visit Amazon.com. Thanks for joining the program.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.